My name is Matt Edmond, and I'm coming from Bank. Also on the session is Stacy Kernenshield, who will be helping with dropping things in chat as well as answering any questions you may have throughout. We may also park some questions at the end in the event that Stacy and I are not equipped to answer your estate planning questions. We will certainly capture those and then take those back to our wealth management consultants here with the Commerce Trust Company and be able to get resident expert advice if we're not equipped to answer your questions. So let's go ahead and dive in. So estate planning, it can be intimidating thinking about the future as we never know what tomorrow may bring, but fortunately there are tools individuals can use to prepare and plan for the unexpected and detail their unique wishes. In this course, we'll dive into what an estate plan is, highlighting the different benefits it provides individuals, whether you're in college or nearing retirement. After discussing what can happen if you pass away without an estate plan, the course explores key terms and common estate planning documents. While everyone's situation is unique, we'll cover checklist items that people generally follow when creating their estate plan. Finally, the course wraps up with an overview of estate planning mistakes to avoid, which can ultimately help give you and your loved ones peace of mind that your wishes are covered. So here is the agenda for today. We're going to spend just a brief moment talking about why financial wellness is important and what My Milestones by Commerce is. And then we are going to together complete the course preparing an estate plan on the My Milestones platform. There will be a call to action with some best next steps for users on the call once we complete that course. And then we'll end today with questions answers related to your unique situations. So if you have questions or items that you would like to cover today, we encourage you to go ahead and let us know what those questions or areas that you want to hear more about in the chat, and we will do our best to incorporate those throughout today's session and during the question and answers portion at the end. So the reason we are here today is because the WBUGU has partnered with us to bring My Milestones as a free benefit to you all. My Milestones is a financial wellness platform that provides objective, interactive tools, education, and solutions to empower users to take control of their finances. We are all in different situations, and with My Milestones, you can gain financial education on topics that are relevant to you. My Milestones offers a variety of different learning mediums, such as courses, interactive tools, articles, Start Here guides, videos, infographics, and webinars. Personal information that you put into My Milestones will not be shared with WGU. All right, so I'll lean on Stacy to drop our first poll question in the chat. Let's start getting some interaction from those in the audience. The question that we have here is, if you were to give yourself a grade, how would you grade yourself when it comes to your own personal financial knowledge? And would you give yourself an A, a B, a C, a D, or even an F as it relates to your own personal financial knowledge? And thanks so much for those responses coming through. We love to see the engagement. We've got a lot of B's coming through, a couple C's sprinkled in, which is good to see. It seems like today's group is feeling pretty good about their personal financial knowledge, which we love to see. Thanks for that engagement. So surprisingly enough, only 41% of American adults said that they deserve no better than a C grade when it comes to their own personal financial knowledge, which is all the more reason that we have My Milestones by Commerce here today. And My Milestones will help you improve your grade, so to speak, when you think about your own personal financial knowledge. So let's dive into that platform. Next up, we have a QR code, and Stacy is also going to be dropping the URL that you see listed there, wgu.mymilestones.com, into the chat. For anyone that is on the session today that has not yet had the opportunity to register for the My Milestones financial education platform, now is your time. So we are going to take 30 seconds to a minute to allow first-time users the space to get registered and onto the platform for the first time. If you take out your phone and scan that QR code with your camera application, you could be interacting with My Milestones from your mobile device. Or if you're on a desktop or a laptop today and you would prefer to interact with the platform from your PC, then by all means, go ahead and access it that way. We just want returning users to go ahead and get logged into their platform or new users to have the time and space to get registered. New users, whether or not you're using your mobile or a desktop, it is going to ask for your first name, your last name, and then for you to use an email. We would recommend using your WGU email, but if you need to use another, by all means. You'll re-enter that email and then you'll create a passcode. WGU users will not be asked to select an affiliation. We know you're affiliated with WGU, and there will be a couple questions that will have you click some boxes and accept those terms and conditions. And then it may ask, are you a fire hydrant or are you a set of stairs? And once you've got that CAPTCHA taken care of, you should be logged into your My Milestones platform. And I am going to pause and navigate us to that platform, which I already have a test profile created for today's session. And I'll just see if we've got any questions related to getting logged back in or registered on the platform for the first time. Doesn't look like it. And Stacy, thanks for getting that in the chat. All right, let's go ahead and continue. We're now going to be on the My Milestones platform for the next 20 or 30 minutes before we head back to the PowerPoint and wrap up the session with the call to action and Q&A. So for first-time users, what you're seeing here is what we call the dashboard. And for first-time users, you may have 0 of 4 completed activities, and that's okay. I've gone ahead and I've done the easier of the activities as an example to get started. So I read the welcome message from WGU, and that completed one of my first 4 actions. And then I also set a streak goal. So what that means is I am going to allow the platform to let me know that I want to come back and learn on a regular basis. I selected daily. You can select daily, weekly, or monthly for the platform to remind you to come back and continue your financial wellness journey. But then the other 2 items that I want to recommend for first-time users or returning users, if it's been a while, is for you to complete your Discover Your Money Personality Assessment. This is an MBTI style personality assessment, but it's related to your finances, and it gives you some psychology behind why you make the buying decisions that you do. And we really encourage folks to take about 5 minutes and complete that Discover Your Money Personality Assessment. In addition, we would recommend for you to get recommendations by taking a brief questionnaire which unlocks personalized recommendations. So you can start that anytime here from the dashboard if you're a new user, or returning users may want to visit the checkup section on the left-hand side. You can go to your overview. And as you can see, as a first-time user on this profile, I need to take the checkup, which will then unlock my recommendations and my monthly tasks. We won't do that today, but if you're a first-time user on My Milestones, highly recommend that those 4 actions be some of the first that you take on the platform. The purpose of today is to go over the estate planning course in its entirety, which we're going to do. But before we dive into the course, I want to highlight a couple different ways for you to find information on My Milestones related to any topic that's relevant to you. But today we'll highlight topics that are relevant to estate planning. As I navigate to the top, next to the dashboard tab, there's a topics tab, and I'm going to go ahead and select all topics to show you what the platform has. Topics range from A to Z, and they're categorized in different methods: managing money, things like budgeting, emergency fund. This is where estate planning, trusts, and wills are located. But before we dive into that estate planning section, I'm going to scroll us all the way down, and I'll highlight that there is a paying for school section. I know that we're on with WGU, and so there may be content here that would resonate with the audience, whether that's applying for aid through FAFSA, preparing for college, whether or not you are already paying on some student loans and repaying methods there, whether or not you've got kiddos in the household and you're saving for a child's further education. We've got information on smart borrowing as well as college life and additional types of aid. So a really robust section for paying for school when you scroll to the bottom of that topics tab. I'm scrolling back up to the top, and we're going to dive into estate planning. And here you'll start to see some of the content, the robust different learning mediums that My Milestones has available for you. Here, for instance, at the top is a Start Here guide with estate planning. And this would be a great place to start if estate planning is a new topic for you. As you scroll through some of the other topic, you'll see latest in estate planning, popular in estate planning, and then all content related to estate planning. I have favorited a few items, and as you hover over things, you'll see that heart appear in the top left corner. If you click that and make it red, that will save that article or content in your favorites back on your dashboard. And let's go ahead and take a look at where you can find those favorites in the future. Navigating to the left-hand side of the dashboard, there is a favorites tab with that heart. And as I navigate into that favorites section, you'll see I have already favorited a number of tools, courses, as well as additional content in the form of webinars, videos, infographics, Start Here guides that are related to not only estate planning, but then other items that we recommend related to this topic. All right. So let's go ahead and navigate back to the top under topics, and we're going to go on the right-hand side. You'll see there's ways to learn. There are courses, tools, articles, Start Here guides, all of which you can dive into individually, but let's start with courses and navigate to the Preparing an Estate Plan course. All right, here it is. And I have already completed the personalized course setup to aid in the delivery of this course. So what I'm going to do is, before I say continue course, this is what you'll see when you dive into any of the different course content. It'll tell you what this course explores, more about the course, and what you'll learn, in addition to an overview. So it'll give you a time box for how long it should take to complete. There will be a personalized course setup, 12 minutes of on-demand videos for this course. And then there's an interactive exercise, some quizzes with immediate feedback. We'll end the course today with a personalized action plan and some next steps. So let's go ahead and dive back in to the Preparing an Estate Plan course. To get started, no matter where you're at in life, it's important to be prepared for the unexpected. So here's how an estate plan can help. We're going to begin with a short video on what is an estate plan and why might I need it.
Having your wishes outlined in an estate plan can be a tremendous gift to loved ones, as it can help remove any confusion and prevent them from taking actions that go against your wishes. Before we dive into some other benefits of having an estate plan, let's take a look at what an estate plan can do. To start, an estate plan is a written set of documents that explains how you want your money and property to be handled if you pass away or become incapacitated. An estate plan can serve many purposes. For instance, it can provide financial support for loved ones and future generations after you pass. It can also provide a worst-case scenario plan to protect your assets and help your loved ones avoid expensive court proceedings if you become incapacitated. Additionally, it can help individuals avoid the probate process and minimize certain types of tax liability. Although there are many reasons a person might need an estate plan, ultimately, anyone can benefit from crafting one. Here are just a few scenarios of how an estate plan might benefit you. For example, parents who want to name a guardian for their child in case they both pass away before the child is 18 might need an estate plan. An estate plan can also be beneficial for individuals who recently received a serious medical diagnosis and have specific wishes regarding their health care. Additionally, single individuals who want to give a trusted individual power to make important decisions about their health and finances might create an estate plan. In the end, an estate plan can communicate your wishes and speak for you in case you cannot do so for yourself. This makes it an incredibly helpful tool for both you and your loved ones.
All right, thanks for watching that video with us. This is an example of one of those immediate quizzes with feedback as a result of completing that video. So I will ask the audience for some assistance here. Keep me honest, make sure we get a good score on this quiz. So which of the following is an example of what an estate plan can do? Can it name a guardian for your pet or child? Can it provide a worst case scenario plan to protect your assets? Can it help your loved ones avoid expensive court proceedings? Can it minimize certain types of tax liability? Or do we feel it does all of the above? And it looks like we've already got an all of the above. And you know, in school, if there's an all of above, you're probably pretty safe taking that one. Good job on all of the above. What's at stake? So it can be difficult to think about what will happen when you pass away. However, it's worth considering how an estate plan, or the lack thereof, can affect different areas of your life after you pass. So here is an interactive activity that you will toggle this switch below, and it's had an estate plan or doesn't have an estate plan. And so right now it's toggled on that we do, but I'm going to toggle it off. And we're going to look through each of these 4 different categories to see what would happen by not having an estate plan in place. So let's look at what happens to our assets without having an estate plan in place. If you're single and pass away without a will, your children will likely inherit most of your estate. However, if you're single and don't have children, your estate will be passed on to your parents, then your siblings, and any remaining assets will be distributed to your extended family. If you're married without an estate plan and without children and pass away without a will, your spouse will likely inherit most of your estate. Certain states will allow your parents to share part of your estate with your surviving partner, but the exact amount is dependent on each state's intestacy laws. And so if you are married with children, half of your assets may go to your spouse and half may go to your living children. But if one of your children predeceased you, then any of their living children will be able to receive an inheritance instead. And then without an estate plan in a domestic partnership, what happens to your assets? Sometimes your assets will be distributed to your domestic partner similarly to how they would a surviving spouse, but it's important to check your state's laws since not all states will legally recognize domestic partnerships. So it definitely has some impact whether or not you have an estate plan and what happens to your assets, depending on whether or not you're single, married, or in a domestic partnership. So let's go ahead and look and see what happens with children without an estate plan. So if you pass away without a will and have minor children, you won't have control over who looks after them. Instead, a state judge will decide on a guardian for you. However, it can be difficult for them to know what would be in the best interest of your child, as the court won't understand your family dynamics as well as you do. So this could also be a long process spanning anywhere from several days to several months. And since potential guardians must be screened in order to assure suitability. So with children in this scenario, definitely want to make sure that what happens to them if you are no longer there is what's in their best interest. So what happens to your taxes without an estate plan? There are several types of taxes that may be imposed on your assets when you pass away, and though it depends on each state, these will likely be estate taxes and inheritance taxes. Let's not dive too much into those specifics because those are specifics that if you have questions related to estate taxes and inheritance taxes, we'll want to get you in contact with a wealth management consultant. And then debt. Let's look at and see what happens when you've got some debt without an estate plan. If you pass away without an estate plan, your remaining assets will likely be used to pay off any outstanding debt before it is distributed to beneficiaries. And at this point, creditors may also be able to make claims on your assets. So I know we looked at this example kind of glass half empty first. Let's go ahead and let's look at this glass half full. And let's toggle that switch to we have an estate plan in place, but let's look and see what happens with each of these categories having that estate plan in place. So with debt, having an estate plan, if you have a living trust, you may be able to avoid probate and protect more of your assets since assets are held within the trust instead of your estate. Your executor will also have more control and will, while creditors can still make claims, your executor can help negotiate with them to reduce the amounts of debts owed. So having an estate plan in place when it comes to debts could save you some money. What happens with taxes when you have an estate plan? So having an estate plan can help minimize your death taxes like an estate tax or an inheritance tax. Placing your assets in a trust can remove them from your total estate to avoid these taxes, and depending on the type of trust. Additionally, you can set up your trust to facilitate the transfer of wealth in a way that alleviates the amount of tax. Again, related to taxes and some of these estate and inheritance taxes. If you've got questions that focus there, we will definitely want to get you in contact with a wealth management consultant from Commerce Trust Company. What happens with children when there's an estate plan? If you have minor children and create a will, it will likely include a guardianship clause, and this allows you to nominate a specific person as well as other contingencies to look after your children if you pass away or become incapacitated. So the estate plan and a will definitely give you peace of mind knowing that if something were to happen to you, your children will be protected in the way in which you desire, not the way that the state desires. And then what happens to your assets with an estate plan? So having a will allows you to decide who receives your assets when you pass away, so you can control who gets what. If you happen to have a trust, you can also control when those assets will be distributed to each beneficiary. So moral of the story, what happens when you pass away without an estate plan? I think we all saw the additional hurdles that you would need to consider. And perhaps some of the peace of mind that comes with having that estate plan in place. Let's go ahead and move on to a poll question here. I will ask for some audience feedback. So why do you think most people don't have an estate plan? There's no right or wrong answer, but we'll see how other people have responded to this. So they don't know how to get started. They think they don't have enough assets to leave someone. They haven't made it a priority. They believe it's too expensive to craft one, or they think they're too young. Do any of those resonate with members of the audience? I'm seeing a good mix of responses. This is great. And it just goes to show that we are all in different situations. And like I said, there is no wrong answer, but I am seeing a couple, they don't know how to get started. That appears to be one of the best ones. So let's go ahead and say they don't know how to get started and see how we compare. So 38% of respondents said they don't know how to get started, and that's the majority. 24% said that they think they don't have enough assets to leave someone. So about a quarter of respondents. 17% said they didn't make it a priority. And so that sounds like, 17% definitely have it within their means to make it a priority. And then they believe it's too expensive. 7% believe it's too expensive to craft one. And then 14% say that they are too young. And never too young to have peace of mind about what happens to your finances, in my opinion. So regardless of where you fell on that answer, this just shows you kind of how we stacked up against other respondents to that poll question. All right, let's learn some estate planning terms. So as you might have guessed, there are many terms and roles involved in the estate planning process, and we'll go over some common ones, starting with the different parties that are involved. Here's an example of an infographic. For those visual learners out there, that's me. I always like these infographics, and it visualizes what we're consuming. So key terms and parties. Here are some of the parties involved: your attorneys, your beneficiaries. For instance, a beneficiary in a will or a trust is the person who you specifically name to inherit something from you. We learned something in our pre-course setup, and that was a tetester. So the tetester is the person who a will is prepared for. So for instance, if you are seeking to prepare a will after today, you would be considered a tetester. And then you've got things like your heirs. So heirs are relatives who legally stand to inherit your property if you don't designate beneficiaries in a will or other document. So what we've learned earlier today is, through an estate plan and through having things like a will and a trust, you get to determine who those beneficiaries are as a tetester, instead of not having those in place. And then your heirs would be the rightful, in the eyes of the state, would be the rightful next in kind to receive your finances. So additional key terms: administration, interstate, per capita. Per stirpus is another way to divide property among people of different degrees of relation to you. If a beneficiary predeceases you, their children split their share of your estate. So some really helpful terms in the form of an infographic there. Let's take a little brief quiz, and a person you name in a will or trust to inherit something from you is called a principal, a trustee, a beneficiary, an heir, or a fiduciary. And I think we did just cover this. Let's see how we're tracking. People are saying C, people are saying beneficiary. I like that. Knowledge gain. Good job. All right, what are our options? So an important step in estate planning is understanding what documents you need to outline your wishes. Though there are many to consider, let's take a look at a few of the common ones. We've got another brief video on common estate planning documents.
When creating your estate plan, it's important to understand the different types of documents you can use to outline your wishes. The particular documents you need will depend on your individual circumstances. However, many estate plans consist of the following common documents. The most common document that people are familiar with is a last will and testament. In general, a will can ensure your assets go to the people of your choosing and can set up a guardian for your minor children. It can also nominate a person known as an executor who will be responsible for wrapping up your estate, paying off your final debts, and distributing your property according to your wishes. Next, let's look at another popular estate planning document, a trust. Trusts allow you to name someone else to manage your assets for your loved ones, and there are many different types out there. Here are a few common ones that are important to be aware of. First, there's a revocable living trust, which is a popular type of trust that helps individuals avoid the probate process and lets them make changes to it whenever they want. There are also irrevocable life insurance trusts, which keep life insurance proceeds from being accessible to creditors. Additionally, there are special needs trusts, which let your loved ones who are receiving Medicaid, SSI, or some other public benefit keep their benefits while still having access to trust assets. Another common estate planning document is a financial power of attorney, which allows you to name a trusted person known as an agent to handle your legal, financial, and business affairs. Some of the typical duties that a power of attorney grants include handling the sale of your property, writing checks to pay for your expenses, cashing and depositing checks, paying for healthcare needs, and collecting your mail. You can also make a power of attorney durable, which allows your agent to still have these powers if you become incapacitated. Next, let's look at an advanced healthcare directive, which is a document that usually consists of two parts. The first is the living will, which allows you to specify the type of life-prolonging medical treatment you want or don't want. The second part is a healthcare power of attorney. This authorizes a person to speak for you and make medical decisions that align with your wishes if you are unable to communicate them yourself. If you're an unmarried adult, it's particularly important to have a healthcare power of attorney, since state default laws can override your wishes if not stated. Naming your agent through a healthcare power of attorney can help you avoid having someone you don't want making decisions for you. Depending on your individual circumstances, there may be other estate planning documents that you can benefit from. For example, you might choose to add a beneficiary designation, which allows money from your financial accounts to be automatically transferred to the beneficiaries of your choice upon your passing. Or you might consider a letter of intent, which is an informal document that provides your loved ones with important information about personal and financial matters after you pass. Overall, when it comes to making your estate plan, understanding the common types of estate planning documents and looking at your unique situation is key to ensuring your wishes are covered.
All right, thanks for watching that brief video. Always great content to know some of those common estate planning documents, and we'll dive into some of what was covered there as it relates to revocable and living trusts when we get to question and answer. Here's a quiz question based on that video. Which document allows you to name someone else to manage your assets for your loved ones? Is that document a will, an advanced healthcare directive, a beneficiary designation, a trust, or a power of attorney that allows you to name someone else to manage your assets for loved ones? Looks like we've got mixed responses. Let's go with a trust and see how we did. Trust it was. Good job. All right, so what do you need to include in your plan? Every estate plan is unique. However, there are some common checklist items that people generally follow. So let's take a look. Another brief video regarding putting your plan together.
Once you're ready to take action and put your estate plan together, you may be wondering what the next steps are. Here are some things to consider. To start, you'll want to take inventory of all your assets. This includes tangible assets like homes, vehicles, and other personal possessions, and intangible assets like investment accounts, checking and savings accounts, life insurance, and so on. Once you've compiled a list of all of your assets, go through and note the value of each. Certain items will offer straightforward valuations, while others may require more digging, so do your best to assign a value. Next, you'll want to know what documents will make up your estate plan. The exact documents will depend on your unique situation. So when deciding, it helps to look at your particular needs. For example, those with minor children may need a will, which can name a guardian to care for their children if they pass away. Alternatively, if you're single and don't have any children, you'll need to name a power of attorney who can make financial and medical decisions on your behalf if you pass away or become incapacitated. Finally, it's important to consider the different people who will be involved in your estate plan. Each role in the estate plan is unique to your situation, but it might be helpful to consider the following questions. For example, who will inherit your assets? Who will execute your wishes once you've passed away? If you have children or pets, who will take care of them? Whatever you decide, it's critical to choose backups for each role, as you never know the ups and downs life can bring. Estate plans can be vast, so it may be beneficial to create a summary document that lists out critical aspects of your financial picture. A great summary document will provide your heirs or legal representatives with a clear understanding of what's what in your estate plan. For example, it may include bank account information, life insurance policy information, and real estate deeds. While you can prepare your estate plan independently, many people find comfort in working with a professional. A professional can confirm that you have the correct documents, draft them for you, and provide recommendations as needed. For example, you might consider hiring an estate planning attorney or financial professional to help you navigate the complexities of your situation. Additionally, there are online legal services providers that can guide you as you craft your own estate plan. You may have access to these services through sources like an employer or retirement plan as well. By taking the time to understand your unique estate planning needs, you can take those next steps towards financial security for you and your loved ones.
What I really liked about that video is where it ended and checking your network, right? Making sure that there is not a resource if creating a will is something that is of interest or an action that you want to take. Double checking with your employer, with the networks that you belong to. Would there be any resources available that you could take advantage of there? Let's talk about taxes. We won't get too into the weeds here, as these taxes are not the taxes that we're all thinking of a week from now. These are estate planning and inheritance and gift taxes. So these taxes are a little bit different and are unique to each individual's situation. If inheritance, estate, and gift taxes are a topic that is of particular interest to you, we would love to connect afterwards and make sure that we're getting you in touch with the right representative to best assist you. So quick quiz question: if a person passes away and has taxes due on their assets, which tax is imposed on the person receiving those assets? And that would be considered an inheritance tax. So we're not finished just yet. Let's watch one more video on estate planning mistakes to avoid.
Making an estate plan is an important step in protecting your loved ones and making your wishes known. However, after taking the time to make an estate plan, the last thing you want is for it to not fully outline your wishes. Because of this, we'll take a look at some of the most common estate planning mistakes so you know what to avoid. The biggest estate planning mistake is failing to make any type of plan. Though the state will still have a plan for you, it likely won't outline your unique wishes. For instance, property you intend to go to specific loved ones could instead go to other family members when you pass away. So the easiest way to avoid this mistake is to figure out what matters to you and put these wishes in writing. Next up is waiting too long to plan. If you become incapacitated, for example, it may be too late for you to put necessary estate planning provisions in place. This is why it's important to prioritize creating an estate plan. Unfortunately, many people have a one-and-done approach to estate planning. However, estate planning documents are generally intended to be living documents that change as your circumstances change. So it's important to review and update your estate plan accordingly after a major life event. This includes getting married or divorced, having a child, relocating to another state, and so on. In addition to updating your estate plan after a major life event, many experts also recommend reviewing and updating your estate plan every 3 to 5 years. For instance, tax laws may change, or you could dispose of property and need to reallocate your remaining assets more fairly among your beneficiaries. Another common estate planning mistake is not storing your documents in a safe place. It's important to know if your state requires seeing the original will after you pass away for it to have any legal merit. If this is the case and your will is destroyed due to a fire or storm, for example, the legal effect may result in the court moving forward as if you had no will at all. Therefore, it's essential to store your documents in a safe place, such as a fireproof or waterproof safe at home. Wherever you decide to store your documents, be sure to tell a trusted family member or friend where they are so they can easily locate them if you pass away. As you go through the process of creating and updating your estate plan, knowing what mistakes to avoid can give you and your loved ones peace of mind that your final wishes will be taken care of.
All right, last quiz question. If you pass away without an estate plan, the state will still make a plan for you that outlines your wishes. Is this true or false? Making a plan for you that outlines your wishes. I'm not sure if the state's equipped to do that. So that was false. Which behaviors are you most likely to implement or change to ensure your estate plan aligns with your wishes? This is a personal poll question. Would you work with a professional? Would you regularly update an existing plan that you have in place? Would you review your plan when circumstances change, or would you store your estate planning documents in a safe place? I can attest I'm already doing this. I have worked with a professional, regularly update. I think I'm probably at the review my estate plan when circumstances change. And then how do we feel about that course? We started not so confident, but after all of that learning, I am feeling quite confident in our ability to prepare an estate plan. So after we have completed that course, this is what you would be presented with. You can explore Commerce Bank Solutions. You can view the action plan or your completion certificate. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at the action plan that you receive after completing a course. This will give you an overview of your pre-score, which I had an 80. A post-score, we scored very well during that course, and we gained some knowledge as a result. Our perception in the pre-course, we were not so confident, but by the time we had ended that course and consumed that content, we were feeling more confident as it relates to preparing an estate plan. Here's that poll question that we were presented with and how we responded. We were with the majority in thinking that we don't know how to get started, but we're doing everything we can to buck that trend right now. And then personalized action plan. These are the 4 steps that the platform is recommending I take based on the completion of that course. One is to have an open discussion with your loved ones, which I have, and they know where to find my estate planning documents, which include things like power of attorney and healthcare directive. Consider your taxes. So taxes change depending on many factors. So it's important to consider them as you craft your estate plan, and this can help reduce your burden on loved ones after you pass. 3, include email, social media accounts, and other digital property. This was not something that we probably talked about 5 or 10 years ago, but when making an estate plan, it's key to consider your online presence, and accounting for your digital assets can help your loved ones ensure they're handled according to your wishes. And then last but not least, number 4, seek out a professional help if needed. If you need assistance crafting your estate plan, consider working with a financial professional professional who can help you tailor it to your needs. And that is what we are here for at Commerce. So here is our certificate of completion. We would encourage you to complete that course and print this and hang it proudly wherever you would like. All right, so we are cruising right along. We've got about 10 minutes left, and I want to be cognizant of question and answer. So I know that during the session, we did have some questions coming through as it relates to trust accounts specifically. So another feature on My Milestones is the search bar. And I would encourage you to type anything into that search bar that you're thinking of. We're going to go ahead and search for trust and see what kind of information comes back. So here's some content that may be helpful if trust accounts are of particular interest to you. So for instance, a quick video, 2 minutes, on the nuts and bolts of trusts. How to trust others with financial decisions when you're used to calling the shots. Trust a little bit different in that one. Here is nuts and bolts of trusts and estate planning. That one could be helpful. End of life planning with a trust. Let's go ahead and just dive into one of these so you can see what additional content is available. So here it's going to talk about the need for a trust, the players, the common types of trust, the right estate planner. And after each piece of content, you have the ability to say whether or not that was helpful content to what you were searching for. And so great question on all things trusts. And there's a robust information available as it relates to trust accounts out there. Let's navigate back up to the dashboard, and I'll pause and see, Stacy, if we've had any other specific questions come through. Otherwise, I'm going to move us back to our presentation.
Right. Mostly about trusts and creating a trust. And I did touch on possibly reviewing a little bit of the revocable and irrevocable trust, and maybe just a little bit of a definition of what the difference of those two things are.
Yeah. So let's dive into end of life planning with a trust. So this talks about the purpose of a trust. Why should I use a trust instead of a will? Can I use a trust and a will together? You're starting to get into some pretty specifics, things like pour over wills, the different types of trusts and their purposes. So here is exactly where I would want to get some eyes from the audience. So things like the living revocable trusts, irrevocable trusts, bypass, dynasty, qualified personal residence trusts, quite a variety, and it will be specific to each individual financial scenario. So definitely an area to spend some additional time, special considerations when drafting a trust. Think of things like the provisions in case of disability, spendthrift provisions, accounting, beneficiary with debt or drug problems. So lots of different things to consider when thinking about trusts. But we have a team of people here at the bank within the Commerce Trust Company that are dedicated to assisting in these instances. So please let us know how we can further assist you. All right, let's bring it home. And before I navigate back to our presentation, one last area I'll call your attention to: Commerce Bank Solutions on the dashboard, left-hand side. Here is where you can connect with us at any time outside of these learnings as you're navigating the My Milestones platform. Feel free to reach out to us. You can email us, call us. We've got contact information and availability notated here. We've also got an opportunity to highlight any specials that we have going on. And so one of the specials we have going on is information on early pay, which why wait until payday? Learn how you can get your direct deposit 2 days sooner through early pay from Commerce Bank. And last but not least, learn how to get $300 from Commerce Bank when you open and use a new Commerce Free checking account. So with that, let's go ahead and navigate back to our presentation. and round our day out. So here are those next steps that we talked about. We recommend that users take action and go to the topics tab and read the everything you need to know to get started with estate planning Start Here guide. For those that are a little further on their estate planning journey, we recommend that you take action and you go to the courses section and you complete the course creating a financial plan for your priorities and goals. One of the things that we learned during that estate planning course was you need to get all of your assets and liabilities detailed and spelt out for you to then start thinking how best to craft that estate plan. By taking the Creating a Financial Plan for Your Priorities and Goals course first, you will lay out all of those assets and liabilities, which will then help you as you step into your estate plan. Next, you can go to courses and take the Preparing an Estate Plan and use your own personal information in My Milestones to complete that, and then see what recommendations My Milestones has based on where you're at and the answers that you had to questions throughout. In addition to that, we recommend these calls to action. So implementing a plan for incapacity for health and property. I'll give you a personal example of how I did that and what I consider those documents to be part of my estate plan. In January of this year, I had shoulder surgery. It was the first time I had ever been under general anesthesia. And so in preparation for that surgery, I got a healthcare directive, as well as a power of attorney for finances, of which my parents were designated as those individuals. And I knew going into that surgery, should I have any complications, they had the documents that they would need to be able to take action on my behalf, whether it was for my healthcare or whether or not it was for bills and things that would be coming due during my recovery. So having that healthcare directive and that power of attorney for finances in place for me are two documents in my estate plan that give me peace of mind. Have a will and or a trust in association with your estate plan. Again, a little bit more nuanced topic, and those are a little bit more detailed. We would love to get you in contact with a wealth management consultant to talk about how they can help craft those for your situation. Make sure your overall estate plan reflects your current wishes and circumstances. And where I'll leave the thought on that one is make sure your beneficiaries are up to date. And if anything were to happen to you, those beneficiaries are going to be the ones that receive your estate and its contents. And so we wouldn't want that to go to the wrong individual. And then lastly, to help you secure your legacy, we do have an Encompass by Commerce Bank Spring Summer 2025 article, which Stacy is going to be dropping into the chat. And this is a publication from our Commerce Trust Company, some of the same individuals that would be assisting you with things like wills or trust or your estate plan. This is a publication that talks about all those things. And so we would encourage this as an additional resource to My Milestones. Feel free to go out and consume that Encompass spring summer publication. All right, that brings us to the end of today's presentation. We do have Stacy Kernshield's contact information here, both phone and email. Should you have questions at any time, please feel free to reach out. I am going to stop the recording